Okay, guys, so what I want to do first before we start the new stuff is I want to just show you or kind of review what we did on Tuesday because I know we have like a day in between. So remember we were talking about angle relationships, okay? And I do want to bring up you can have angle relationships if these lines aren't parallel, but then it won't have the values. So like when something was congruent to something else or something else was supplementary, it can have the relationship, but then it wouldn't be congruent. Does that make sense? So like if we had, let's say we had alternate interior angles, right? These two dots. If these lines are not parallel, I can still have alternate interior angles, okay? But if they are parallel, then not only are these alternate interior angles, but their measurements are equal, okay? So the measurement part, these have to be parallel. And these two little arrows mean parallel also, just so you know, okay? So just to refresh a little bit, if we're on the inside of the parallel lines, and most of you did pretty good on the assignment Tuesday, so I don't think I have to do too long on this part, but if you're on the inside of the parallel lines, those are interior, okay? If I'm on opposite sides of the transversal, then those are alternate. So these are alternate interior angles, okay? And we know that those are going to be congruent. So if this was like 60 degrees, this would also be 60 degrees, okay? Then we have same side. Okay? And this is the one that people keep messing up for some reason. But when we're on the same side, we're still inside. These are still interior. But now I'm on the same side. Well, these two add up to be 180 degrees. So they are supplementary. Okay? Yes. As long as they are same side interior angles and these are parallel, then yes. So they have to have this relationship with parallel lines, and then these will be supplementary. Okay? Then we have, I'm just going to use a different color. That way I can keep these on here. We could have, let's say, we're looking at these four angles, right? And then these four angles. So we could say, okay, this is the top left of those four angles. And this one's the top left of these four. Who remembers the name of that one? What was it? Might have heard it. Corresponding, good. So when they're in the same position, right, they're corresponding angles. Okay? If you have corresponding angles and these lines are parallel, then those are congruent. They'll be the same measurement. So if this was 100 degrees, this would be 100 degrees. Okay? And then we have some old rules from Unit 2 that we also were using. Okay? And so some people recognize them, but I just want to make sure. So let's say 1 and 2. Okay? Those technically don't need parallel lines because they're on the same line, right? So if we ignore this parallel line, we can see that 1 and 2 are linear pairs because they make up a line and they're adjacent. They share a side. So if these are linear pairs, that means the sum of these two add up to 180 degrees. Okay? So 1 plus 2. Another old rule from Unit 1 was what if they're across from each other? It's like 1 and 3. Who remembers the name of those ones? Again, we don't care about this. It's kind of, it doesn't need the parallel line. It's by itself. So if 1 is just across from 3 with any intersection, what are those called? Good, vertical angles. And vertical angles are also congruent. Okay? So we're going to use some of the old rules and the new rules today. And we're going to up it. We're going to add algebra. Okay? All right, so let me grab an example and we're going to try this out. Okay? Okay, so let's say I have this going on. Okay, so I have two parallel lines with my transversal, and I'm given information about two angles. Okay, kind of unknown information, right? It's got a lot of things that we've got to figure out. But you first want to say, okay, the two angles that they're giving me some information about, do they have a relationship? So does this angle, let's use a green dot, does this angle and this angle, do they have a relationship? Yes. What's their relationship? The name of it. Good. Same side interior angles, right? Or consecutive was the other one, just so we're using both. I like same side because it tells you what it is. Okay, so these are same side interior angles. This one and this one. They're inside my parallel lines and they're on the same side of the transversal. Okay, that's the name of their relationship. The relationship, what's its rule about the values? Good. The sum of the two add up to 180. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, okay, x plus 2x minus 10 equals 180. Okay? And then I'm going to solve. So I get x plus 2x, so I get 3x minus 10 equals 180. Okay? I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So I get 3x is equal to 190, right? And then I do 190 divided by 3. We're going to get a decimal, but that's okay. So x, in this case, is about 63.3. Okay? So the question is, this x value is the actual angle in this case, right? But if it had more to it like this one, you would actually have to solve it, right? So for example, we would say 2 times 63.3 minus 10 for this angle, right? And now we rounded it, so we have to be careful when we round it. But we're going to do 63.3 times 2 and then subtract 10. And so we roughly get 116.6. Okay? So then the question is 116.6 plus the 63.3, is that 180? Well, if you don't round it, then yes, because it would be 179.9, right? But if I round it, because I rounded these, I would get 180, right? So if I round this, it's 180. So the reason it didn't add up exactly is because of the rounding, right? We have that rounding going on. So this angle was 116.6, and then this angle was 63.3. Okay? And then the rounding, just be careful. Okay? All right, good. Let's try another one. Decimals always make it interesting because of the rounding. I'm going to steal the next one. lost it. All right, that's okay. Okay, this one is a little trickier. Okay, so it wants me to find the rest of the angles. It wants me to find 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8. Okay, I'm given this angle, and I'm given some information about this angle. Okay, and so in a minute, you're going to see why this is trickier. So if I talk about just the angles that I'm given some information about, so that's this one and this one, right? Is there a relationship between those two angles? So the first question is, are they both interior? No. So we know it has no relationship to do with interior. Are they both exterior? So nope, they're not exterior angles. So the only one that mixes them is corresponding angles, right? So do they have the same position? No, they're not corresponding angles either. Okay, are they linear pairs? Are they next to each other? Adjacent? Nope. How about vertical angles? Are they across from each other? No. So these angles have no relationship. But I already have the measurement of this angle, and I can start filling in the blanks of things that have a relationship with this angle. Okay? So for example, can anyone see a relationship between the 45 degrees and any of the missing ones? The 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, or 8. So any of the missing angles, does this 45 have a relationship? You can just pick one that you see right away. Okay, we'll pick one at a time. So which one did you go to first? 6. Okay, so you saw a relationship between 6 and 45. What relationship did you see? Vertical angles. Okay, so you're telling me this and this are vertical angles. And so vertical angles are what are their measurements? They're the same. Good. So now I know that that one is also 45 degrees because of vertical angles. Good. Okay. So is there any other relationships you see now? And there's different ways you can do this. So like you guys are doing it different than first period even. Which one? Okay, do one at a time though, because which one do you see first? 3. So why is 3 also 45? What's its alternate interior? Good. So these two are alternate interior angles, so they're also equal. Okay, and then you told me 2. So why is 2 also 45 degrees? Good, because it's vertical to this one now. Okay, do I have enough information to solve the one with the variable in it now? Yes. So which one do you want to use? Where's the relationship? Okay, but we don't know number 1. You need a relationship with something we know. So how about these two? So this one and this one. Do they have a relationship? Yes. What's the name of the relationship? Same side interior angles. Same side interior angles, what about their measurements? They add up to 180. So I can say this guy, 5x plus 35, plus the 45 that you guys figured out equals 180. And so now I can solve. So I can say, okay, what's 45 plus 35? I don't know if I get a decimal at the end. Let's see. Well, let's do it. So 45 plus 35 is 80. So we're going to get 5x plus 80. I don't think we're going to get a decimal. That's good. Okay. So then we're going to subtract 80. So we get 5x. Oh, I did it on accident. Sorry. 5x equals 100, right? And so if we divide both sides by 5, x is what? What is it? 20. Okay, so x is 20. The angle is not 20, right? We got to plug it back in. So we got to say, okay, x is 20. So 5 times 20, well, we just had that, 100, right? And then 100 plus 35, 135. So this angle should be 135. And you want to ask yourself, okay, does 135 plus 45 equal 180? Yes. Oh, you can't see it, sorry. But yes, they do. Okay, so now we know this angle. So can we solve for 1, 5, and 8 now? Okay, which one do you want to do first? 1, okay. So 1 is what? 135. Why? What's the name of the relationship? Vertical angles are congruent. Good. Which one next? 5, okay. 5 is how many degrees? Okay, and why? What's the name of it? Good. Alternate interior angles are congruent. And then the last one? 8. Vertical angles are also congruent. So you found all of them. Yes. You could have, yep. I wanted to show it with the variable, but yes. But then you still would have had to plug it back in. If you needed to find x for some reason, like maybe it asked you what x was. Yeah. So it depends on what they're asking you, right? If they're just asking you to solve all of it, yeah, that would have been easier. If you actually had to know what x was, then you would have had to do it. But yeah. And there's different ways. Like you guys took one route. There were other routes we could have went, right? No one used linear pairs. We could have done linear pairs too. Okay. So we would have been able to find out that this was 135 quicker because these two are linear pairs, right? So there's different ways you can do it. It just depends on what you see first is usually the route. But what's interesting is once you know one thing, you can find the rest using the relationships. Okay? All right, let's try another one. Okay, so let's say they want us to find x and then maybe the angle also afterwards, right? Okay, so I have, let's use green. I have this angle here, which is 4x minus 10. And then down here, I have 3x plus 10. Now, do those two angles have a relationship? Yes. What kind? Good. Alternate exterior. So they're both on the outside of the parallel lines. And then we know that they're alternate because they're across from each other over that transversal line. Okay? So if they're alternate, exterior angles. What do we know about their measurements? They're equal. So I have to set them equal to each other. So I'm going to say 4x minus 10 equals 3x plus 10. Does everyone see why we set them equal to each other? Because alternate exterior angles are equal. And so even though we don't know their values right now, we're still going to set them equal to each other because that's the rule. Okay? So let's start combining things. So if I subtract 3x from both sides, I'm going to run out of room. So we get x minus 10 equals 10. And then we're going to add 10. And so x is what? 20 again, right? That's funny. Wasn't it 20 last time? That's not on purpose. Okay, so now if they want us to solve for this angle, I just need to plug 20 back in. Okay, so what is 4 times 20? 80, and then 80 minus 10? 70. And if this one's 70, then this one should be 70, right? Because they're equal. But we can double check it. So what's 3 times 20? 60 plus 10. 70. So it worked. So now you know both of those were 70. So the question might have asked you, what is x and what is this angle, right? It could have asked you both. Okay. How are we feeling on it? Good?